So guys, second video of the day, Darkworld. Let's talk Darkworld. And I think this is really interesting. I think that Konami just really saved us here from having a really annoying meta by banning the good old Silva, which I think it's written with double L or something, exactly, which is now banned, and I think the other guy is Ceruli or something, Guru of Darkworld. Yeah, so maybe you have noticed this, but Silva got banned before we were announced getting the new Darkworld support cards, which the most important ones is Grafa, then Rainbow. You would play the Genta, which can search the field spell, the Ultra Rare here, and Darkworld Session, also Darkworld Archives here. So what is this deck essentially doing? This deck is basically playing like the whole timer. It has a really long play time, can nearly play to all its deck by discarding cards and getting them back to hand and summoning new cards via the danger cards, drawing new cards, and then resummoning fiend cards. And at the end of the day, you would end on something like your Appaloosa and your Grafa, which is a negate. But the real important, or the real like strong point of the deck was removed from Konami by banning the Silva. And if you don't know, that Silva says if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, not really important, but then if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, your opponent places exactly 2 cards from their deck on the from the hand on the bottom of the deck in any order. So if this guy here gets discarded by the opponent's card effect, 2 cards from the hand back into the deck. And this was combined with Ceruli, Guru of Darkworld, which if this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect from your hand, you can special summon this to your opponent's field. And then if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Darkworld card, your opponent discards 1 card. So if you have this thing in hand and Silva in hand, and you can manage to discard this via the effect of a Darkworld card, for example, your Gates of the Darkworld, because you can banish 1 fiend monster from your graveyard, discard 1 fiend monster, and this is a fiend monster, then you would like discard this. This would get summoned to your opponent's side of the field, and then you could discard your own Silva, and your opponent would put back 2 cards into his deck. And what would happen is that you would end up with a board optimally with a few negates, namely Grafa and Appaloosa, plus some more, and then you would basically try to hand loop your entire opponent's hand, so that in the end they only have maybe 1 card in the hand because you have shuffled back 4 cards, or maybe they don't have a single card in their hand that they can respond with. Maybe sometimes you would only be able to shuffle back 2 cards, which is still pretty strong, because you definitely were able to get these back to your hand and just like do the process all over again. So you can basically play like it's a saying in TCG, you play solitaire with this deck because you're only playing with yourself. You may also notice that there are no Maxis and Ash Blossoms in here. I will talk about this in a moment. Keep in mind, I'm not the biggest like pro when it comes to the Darkworld deck, but I think a list in Master Duel could look something like this. Maybe you put in your Maxi, though the thing why, for example, you are playing Lava Golems in here, or you can play Lava Golems to break the board, is because this is a fiend, and a lot of your cards are like working with fiend cards. For example, your field spell that you can use multiple times in a turn, you can play a new field spell, and then you can use this again, by the way. So a lot of cards are interacting with fiend monsters, so that's why Maxi, for example, is a bit like counterintuitive. Also, though you have to keep in mind that your danger cards are obviously also not fiend cards. So yeah, maybe you would put out maybe one Nessie, one of the Jackalopes. We don't have this at 1 here, and maybe, I don't know, a Chupacabra or a Bigfoot to put in Maxis here could also be the case, right? So that is that. But I think the most important thing is that we have to keep in mind, and this is really lucky, we are really lucky here, this got basically banned because Silva is now forbidden, so now you cannot use this combo, and there's basically no reason to use this Ceruli now. You like we will get this card, I think it's also a new card, or do we already have it? We already have it, but you won't use it. And I think with this here, with this forbidden of Silva, I think the deck is basically useless, to be honest. We can look at the win rate here over in the TCG, and you can see Danger Darkworld. We have it at 55%. Obviously, 737 is not that many games compared to, for example, the Kashtira count here, which the 60 is way more like believable. It's way more accurate. But 55, this is a really nice win rate. This is cool and would be a nice and good deck in Master Duel, that's for sure. I have to keep in mind that if we can trust what Master Duel says to us in terms of the win percentages, then we have to assume that Tier Elements and Sprite, because they show it in the game, are around 54% win rate. So this would be even better than Tier Elements or Sprite. Though keep in mind, the TCG has this combo still alive, and I think that this is the main reason why this deck is winning so much. Because the endboard that you are able to build here with, for example, your Grapha and your Appaloosa, it's basically a Adamancipator endboard, so it's maybe even less, I would say. But obviously, if you would be able to like get 6 or 4 or 2 cards out of your opponent's starting hand back into the deck, then this is the real strong point of the deck. This is what makes the deck really strong, and we were lucky. We were lucky that they banned the silver, or have banned the silver, because otherwise a lot of people would be playing Darkworld in the new format, and you would sit there and you would watch their combo for like 180 seconds until the timer runs out, would have to watch their combo through, and in the end they would have a board with Appaloosa, with Grapha, and you would have like 1 card in your hand, and people would hate that. That would be so annoying, and I can definitely understand this. As of right now, I think there will be people playing Darkworld, but it won't be a lot of people, because without this like really core and strong combo here, I think the deck is not strong. Possibly will have a win rate under 50% if I would have to guess, though that obviously is only a guess. So yeah, in terms of power level, I think this deck is weak. Really weak, weaker than Trap Tricks that I showed you before. Let's talk about rarities. You definitely would need 2 Graphas, ultra rare. You need 3 of these. This is an ultra rare. This we already know is an ultra rare. You need 1 or 2 of these. Then there are these new cards coming here that you basically also need. We don't know about the rarities, but I would assume that, for example, Rainbow or something would be another ultra rare. Maybe the Genta, I don't know, maybe Darkworld Accession that you can use to fusion summon your Grapha with. Or I think it's special summon. No, it's fusion summon, okay. So there are a lot of ultra rare cards. Also in the extra deck you need this Skull Red, I think it's ultra rare. This Zombie Stein is ultra rare, which you don't like need, but it's also an ultra rare. So this is not the cheapest deck here. Cards like Zephyros you can get from the Blackwing structure deck, it's an ultra rare. Bigfoot is an ultra rare, but you could replace that with another of the danger cards, or maybe Maxi, as I already talked about. Cards like Trade-In is an ultra rare, Upstart Goblin ultra rare. This is an ultra rare, but you get it from the like the pack that you can always get for free. So maybe you already have this, you can look. So not the cheapest deck, I think. So let me say this. In terms of having fun with this deck, having fun playing this deck, I think this deck is a lot of fun, because you can, this is basically one of the longest combo decks that you could play. I think this is kind of like this really annoying, and it was hell. This was the worst format, and I didn't play a lot in it. This is kind of like this deck when the Ishizu cards came out, and you had these strange decks that were basically, yeah, like you played Maxi, and they were able to deck you out in 1 turn. They were just special summoning through their whole deck, milling all the cards to the graveyard. Then they used this annoying Necrophase card. And at the end of the turn, your deck was empty, they just passed over to you and you were dead. It's the same thing, it would have been the same thing with this hand loop combo here, but I think this deck plays the same amount of time, and you can basically play through your whole deck. So if you really like to play combo-ish decks, I think you can have a lot of fun with this deck, because you also discard, then maybe you discard your dangers that can be special summoned, and you always, because of the random effect of this discard stuff here, you are basically always having, you have to react to different states of the game, because it's not like discard the same card every time, it's random. So it's a bit like Tier Elements in the sense of, okay, let's see which cards I can discard to the graveyard to fusion summon with, for example. So I think in terms of that, it's a bit like Tier Elements when it comes to the random aspect. So if you like to play really combo heavy decks, I think this could be fun for you. It will not be fun for your opponent, though, keep that in mind. As I already said, I don't think that we will see this deck a lot, because I think without this combo it's weak. With this combo it would be terror in the game. They have really done a good step. So in terms of power level, I can't recommend it. In terms of rarity and whether it's cheap or not, can't really recommend it. I think it's quite expensive. I already have like said it in the last videos, the Labyrinth support really makes the Labyrinth one of the best decks. It's also not that expensive and in comparison to decks like these, because it doesn't need its extra deck really. So if you really want to go for the strongest deck that you can get from the new pack, go for Labyrinth. It's really, really strong. The other decks, Darkworld and Traptrix, are like meh. If you really like the archetype, then of course go for it and enjoy it, have your fun, that's for sure. But I would say in terms of power, not recommended. In terms of is it a cheap deck, not recommended. It's not really cheap. So that is what I have to say about the Darkworld cards. But of course, I think we are getting the reprint of Grapha in the selection pack, so you can pull this, for example, which is nice. We obviously do not know about all the rarities right now. I will make a video about this tomorrow morning, where I will talk about whether I would recommend buying the pack as a whole. But yeah, maybe the other cards will get cheap, then maybe the argument is this deck cheap or expensive can be a bit tuned down. Maybe it's then a bit cheaper. Who knows? I would not recommend it, but you have to make your own decision. By the way, tomorrow, roughly about 11 p.m. or something, Berlin time, 11 a.m. at morning, I'm not sure, in the morning of course. In Berlin time, I will live stream basically for the whole day playing the new cards, mainly the new Labyrinth deck, of course, to grind to Master 1, which I am really looking forward to. If you want to join me, if you like the video, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up and activate the notification bell. This helps out a lot, and we will see each other tomorrow with the new videos. Until then, have a great day.